So guys, since this is the first Train More of the year, it's our first week in the calendar year. Again, we talked a little bit earlier about giving your demo an enema, right? About just getting all the extra stuff out of there. Get the gunk out. Get an oil change and put the good stuff, the basics back in. And guys, there was, I don't know if any of you guys have ever heard of elevation worship, but that was we're going to talk about this a little bit more tomorrow, but that's something that if I can't physically make it to a service on Sundays, it's good to hop online and listen to a little elevation. I'd encourage you guys, if you could use a little boost in that area, man, it provides that. And there was yesterday was kind of a greatest hits version of that, and there was about six, seven different sermons that they did highlights of. And one of them was called Come Together. And he talked about Stephen, the minister on there, Stephen Furtick, which actually is out of, I believe, Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's just south of Charlotte, is where the actual original church is. But he spoke, the name of the sermon was It'll Come Together, guys. And I'm not trying to, regardless of what your beliefs or what have you, I just want to share this with you. I think most of us on here are, in fact, believers. But this highlight was It'll Come Together, and it was a little bit on the book of Ruth. And the whole idea behind it, guys, was we don't taste life as a meal. We experience the individual ingredients, okay? We don't taste life as a full meal. We experience the individual ingredients, and individual ingredients may or may not taste great. You know, the example he used is that, does anybody out there want to eat a big old heaping pile of baking powder? Does that sound like it would be yummy? Probably not, right? But if you add flour and some milk and some eggs with that baking powder, you can get yourself a pretty awesome tasting cake. And who doesn't like cake? So guys, in our business, so some of those ingredients may seem bad, but they're simply ingredients in a good meal, in a good food item, in a good life. And guys, same thing in our business. Some things that we need to do in our business, we may not enjoy them. They may not taste good to us in the moment, but if we do them and we add them to our business, the end result will be a yummy meal that we all truly love. And we'll dig in on this a little bit more later in the week. But guys, something that I want to share with you guys, the secret of being successful. And I know some of you guys got exposed to this in Sales Academy, and some of you guys, this will be the first time you've ever heard it. But guys, whether it's the first time you've heard this or the 101st time you've heard it, I want to encourage you to take some notes right now, because every single time I read this, I'm highlighting something different. Every time I read this, something different is jumping out on me, and it's usually the thing that I need to hear based on where I'm at mentally and emotionally in the moment. So guys, the common denominator of success, okay, the secret of success of every man or woman who's ever been successful lies in the fact that he or she formed the habit of doing the things that failures don't like to do. Okay, guys? So I'm not going to read every single word of this today, but I am going to go through a few highlights of it because we have the extra time. But guys, this piece, it is a timely, and by the way, in here, this was written back in 1940. Okay, so it was written 82 years ago. I guess 83 now, since it's 2023. But guys, so in here where it says he or man, please understand that it could be they or man or woman. It includes all of us, male, female alike. But for purposes of time, I'm going to keep it real simple and just read it as it is and not add the extra words in it. So, guys, the piece is timely and very inspirational. It was first delivered back in 1940, and though it was written for life insurance sales professionals, its message is equally well suited for anyone in sales, especially folks in supplemental sales, right? Because we actually sell some life too, or anyone in any field or endeavor who seeks success in their professional or personal or spiritual lives. So guys, just understanding that what we share today is not exclusive to your business. It also applies to your life. It also applies to your relationship with your maker. Okay, it applies on every single plane of our lives in every situation. So So guys, Mr. Gray, Albert Ian Gray is the gentleman that wrote this. He was an official of the Prudential Life Insurance Company of America, had 30 years of continuous experience, both as a field agent and also as a promoter and instructor in sales development. So here it is, guys. So he said, several years I was brought face to face with the very disturbing realization that I was trying to supervise and direct the efforts of a large number of men who were trying to achieve success without knowing myself what the secret of success really was. And that naturally brought me face to face with the further realization that regardless of what other knowledge I might have brought to my job, I was definitely lacking in the most important knowledge of all. Of course, like most of us, I'd been brought up with the popular belief that the secret of success is hard work. But I've seen so many men work hard without succeeding, and so many men succeed without working hard, that I've become convinced that while hard work was not the real secret, even though in most cases it might be one of the requirements or one of the ingredients. Okay. And so I set out on a voyage to discovery, which carried me through biographies and autobiographies and all sorts of dissertations on success and the lives of successful men, until I finally reached a point which I realized that the secret I was trying to discover lay not only in what men did, but also what made them do it. I further realized that the secret for which I was searching must not only apply to every definition of success, but since it must apply to everyone to whom it was offered, it must also apply to everyone who's ever been successful. In short, I was looking for the common denominator of success. And because that's exactly what I was looking for, that's exactly what I found. So guys, I hope you write this down. You get what you're looking for. Whatever you're looking for, that's what you're going to find. If you look for solutions, you find solutions. If you look for problems, they're pretty easy to find too. But this common denominator of success is so big, so powerful, and so vitally important to your future and mine that I'm not going to make a speech about it. I'm just going to lay it out in line in words of one syllable, so simple that anyone can understand them. The common denominator of success, the secret of success of every human who's ever been successful, lies in the fact that he formed the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do. It's just as true as it sounds. It's just as simple as it seems. You can hold it up to the light. You can put it to the acid test. You can kick it around until it's worn out. But when you're all through with it, it will still be the common denominator of success, whether you like it or not. It'll explain why so many men have come into this business of ours with every apparent qualification for success and given us our most disappointing failures, while others have come in and achieved outstanding success in spite of many obvious and discouraging handicaps. And since it'll also explain your future, it would seem to be a mighty good idea for you to use it in determining just what sort of future you're going to have. Hope I got your attention there. In other words, let's take this big, all-embracing secret and boil it down to fit the individual you. If the secret of success lies in the habit of doing things that failures don't like to do, let's start by boiling down process by determining what are the things that failures don't like to do. The things that failures don't like to do are the very things that you and I and other human beings, including successful men, naturally don't like to do. In other words, we've got to realize right from the start that success is something which is achieved by the minority of humans and is therefore unnatural and not to be achieved by following our natural likes and dislikes, nor by being guided by our natural preferences and prejudices. Guys, the last two sentences were absolutely powerful. It's not normal. Most people aren't successful. Okay? So doing what feels good usually won't get you there. The things that failures don't like to do in general are too obvious for us to discuss them here. And so since our success is to be achieved in the sale of supplemental insurance, let us move on to the discussion of things that we as supplemental insurance people don't like to do. Here too, the things we don't like to do are too many to permit specific discussion, but I think we can all be disposed by saying that they all emanate from one basic dislike particular to our type of selling, that is direct sales. We don't like to call on people who don't want to see us and talk to them about something they don't want to talk about. Any reluctance to follow a definite prospecting program, to use prepared sales talk, to organize time and to organize effort are all caused by this one basic dislike. It's a big one, guys. Perhaps you've wondered what was behind this particular lack of welcome on the part of our prospective buyers. Isn't it true to the fact that our prospects are human too? Isn't it true that the average human being is not big enough to buy cancer insurance or heart insurance or accident insurance on his own accord, and is therefore prone to escape our efforts to make him bigger or persuade him to do something he doesn't want to do by striking at the most important weakness we possess, namely our desire to be appreciated. Okay? Perhaps you've been discouraged by a feeling that you were born subject to certain likes and dislikes particular to you, with which successful men in our business are not afflicted. Perhaps you've wondered why it is our biggest producers seem to like to do the things that you don't like to do. Guess what, guys? They don't. And I think this is the most encouraging statement I've ever offered to a group of supplemental insurance salespeople. But if they don't like to do these things, then why do they do them? Because by doing the things they don't like to do, they can accomplish the things they want to accomplish. Successful people are influenced by the desire for pleasing results. Failures are influenced by the desire for pleasing methods and are inclined to be satisfied with the results that they can get by doing things they like to do. Why are successful men able to do things they don't like to do while failures are not? Because successful men have a purpose strong enough to make them form the habit of doing things they don't like to do in order to accomplish the purpose they want to accomplish. Guys, I'm going to repeat that last paragraph again. I hope you'll write this one down because there's two big words in there: purpose and habit. Why are successful people able to do things they don't like to do while failures are not? Because successful people have a purpose strong enough to make them form the habit of doing the things they don't like to do in order to accomplish the purpose that they want to accomplish. Sometimes even our best producers get into a slump. When a man goes into a slump, it simply means that he's reached a point at which, for the time being, the things he doesn't like to do have become more important than his reasons for doing them. And may I pause to suggest to you, managers, leaders, trainers, general agents, that when one of your good producers goes into a slump, the less you talk about their production and the more you talk about their purpose, the sooner you'll pull them out of that slump. Many men with whom I've discussed the common denominator of success have said at this point, but I have a family to support. And I have to have a living for my family and myself. Isn't that a big enough purpose? Nope, it isn't. It isn't a sufficiently strong purpose to make you form the habit of doing the things you don't like to do, for the very simple reasons as it's easier to adjust ourselves to the hardships of a poor living than it is to adjust ourselves to the hardships of making a better one. If you doubt me, just think of all the things you're willing to go without in order to avoid doing the things that you don't like to do. All of which seem to prove that the strength to which holds you to your purpose is not your own strength, but the strength of the purpose itself. Ooh, that's strong. Now let's see why habit belongs so importantly in this common denominator of success. Men are creatures of habit just as machines are creatures of momentum. For habit is nothing more than momentum translated from the concrete into the abstract. Can you picture the problem that would face our mechanical engineers if there was no such thing as momentum? Speed would be impossible, because the highest speed at which any vehicle could be moved would be the first speed at which it could be broken away from a standstill. Elevators could not be made to rise. Airplanes could not be made to fly. And the entire world of mechanics would find itself in a total state of helplessness. Then who are you and I to think that we can do with our own human nature what the finest engineers in the world could not do with the finest machinery that was ever built? Every single qualification for success is acquired through habit. Men form habits and habits form futures. If you do not deliberately form good habits, then you unconsciously form bad ones. If we're not consciously using the sales presentation as it is, we're unconsciously using something else that works at a lower level. You are the kind of person you are because you form the habit of being that kind of person. And the only way you can change is through habit. The success habits in supplemental insurance selling are divided into 4 main groups: prospecting, calling, selling, and work habits. So let's discuss them in that order. Any successful life insurance, and this is big right here, guys. This is big. Any successful supplemental insurance salesperson will tell you that it's easier to sell supplemental insurance to people who don't want it than to find people who do want it. But if you've not deliberately formed the habit of prospecting for needs, regardless of wants, then unconsciously you form the habit of limiting your prospecting to people who want supplemental insurance. And therein lies the one and only reason for your lack of prospects. As to calling habits, unless you deliberately form the habit of calling on people who are able to buy but unwilling to listen, meaning they've got money, but they're not interested in talking to you, okay? Those are better prospects than unconsciously you form the habit of calling on people who are willing to listen but unable to buy. Guys, broke people will talk to you all day long. They got nothing to lose. As to selling habits, unless you've deliberately formed the habit of calling on prospects determined to make them see their reasons for buying supplemental insurance, and unconsciously you form the habit of calling on prospects in a state of mind in which you're willing to let them make you see their reasons for not buying. As to working habits, if you'll take care of the other 3 groups, the working habits will generally take care of themselves, because under work habits are included study and preparation, organization of time and efforts, recording, analysis, etc. Certainly, you're not going to take the trouble to learn interest-arousing approaches and sales talks unless you're going to use them. You're not going to plan your day's work when you know in your heart that you're not going to carry out your plans. And you're certainly not going to keep an honest record of things that you haven't done or results you haven't achieved. So let's not worry so much about the 4th group of success habits. For if you're taking care of your first 3 groups, most of the work habits are going to take care of themselves. And you can afford a secretary or a personal assistant to take care of the rest of that for you. Okay? And you will. A lot of you guys already have assistants that do a lot of these little things for you. But before you decide to adopt these success habits, let me warn you of the importance of habit in your decision. You've attended any sales meetings and sales congresses. I have attended many sales meetings during the past 10 years, and I've often wondered why, in spite of the fact that there's so much good in them, so many people seem to get so little lasting good out of them. Perhaps you've attended sales meetings in the past and have left determined to do the things that would make you successful or more successful, only to find your decision or determination waning at just the time when it should be put into effect in your practice. Guys, it's easy to get fired up on agency days, isn't it? With everybody around you all fired up. It's harder the next day when you're out there in the field by yourself, right? Here's the answer. Any resolution or decision you make is simply a promise to yourself, which isn't worth a tinker's damn unless you form the habit of making it and keeping it. And you won't form the habit of making it and keeping it unless right from the start you link it to a definite purpose that can be accomplished by keeping it. In other words, any resolution you make today has to be made again tomorrow, and the next, and the next, and the next, and so on. And not only has to be made each day, but it has to be kept each day. For if you miss one day in keeping of it, you got to go back and begin all over again. But if you continue the process of making it and keeping it each morning and keeping it each day, you'll finally wake up some morning in a different man in a different world, and you'll wonder what's happened to you in the world you used to live in. Here's what's happened. Your resolution or decision has become a habit, and you don't have to make it on that particular morning. And the reason for you seeming like a different man living in a different world lies in the fact that for the first time in your life, you've become master of your likes and dislikes by surrendering to your purpose in life. That's why behind every success, there must be a purpose, and that's what makes purpose so important in your future. For in the last analysis, your future is not going to depend on economic conditions or outside influences or circumstances over which you have no control. Guys, Family Heritage had its best year to date in 2020 during a pandemic. Your future is going to depend on your purpose in life. So let's talk about purpose. First of all, your purpose must be practical, not visionary, okay? Some time ago, I talked with a man who thought he had a purpose, which is more important to him than income. He was interested in the sufferings of his fellow man, and he wanted to be placed in a position to alleviate that suffering. But when he now analyzed his real feeling, we discovered, as he admitted it, he really wanted a really nice job dispensing charity with other people's money and being well paid for it, along with the appreciation and feeling of importance that would naturally go with such a job. But in making your purpose practical, be careful not to make it logical. Okay? Make it a purpose of the sentimental or emotional type. Remember, needs are logical while wants and desires are sentimental. Your needs will only push you so far, but when your needs are satisfied, they'll stop pushing you. However, your purpose is in terms of wants and desires. If, however, your purpose is in terms of wants and desires, then your wants and desires will keep pushing you long after your needs have been satisfied and until your wants and desires are fulfilled. Coming down the home stretch, guys. Recently, I was talking with a young man who long ago discovered the common denominator of success without identifying his discovery. He had a definite purpose in life, and it was definitely a sentimental or emotional purpose. He wanted his boy to go through college without having to work his way through as he had done. He wanted to avoid for his little girl the hardships which his own sister had faced in childhood. And he wanted his wife and the mother of his children to enjoy the luxuries and comforts and even necessities that had been denied his own mother. And he was willing to form the habit of doing things he didn't like to do in order to accomplish this purpose. Not to discourage him, but rather to encourage me, I said to him, aren't you going a little far with this? There's no logical reason why your son shouldn't be willing and able to work his way through college just as his father did. Of course, he'll miss many of the things that you missed in your college life, and he'll probably have heartaches and disappointments, but if he's any good, he'll come through at the end of the day just as you did. And there's no logical reason why you should slave in order that your daughter may have things that your own sister wasn't able to have, or in order that your wife can enjoy comforts and luxuries that she wasn't used to before she married you. He looked at me with a rather pitying look and said, but Mr. Gray, there's no inspiration in logic. There's no courage in logic. There's not even happiness in logic. There's only satisfaction. The only place that satisfaction has in my life is the realization that the more I'm able to do for my wife and my children, the more I shall be able to do for myself. Imagine after hearing that story, you won't have to be told how to find your purpose or how to identify it or how to surrender to it. If it's a big purpose, you'll be big in its accomplishment. If it's an unselfish purpose, you'll be unselfish in accomplishing of it. And if it's an honest purpose, you'll be honest and honorable in the accomplishment of it. But as long as you live, don't ever forget that while you may succeed beyond your fondest hopes and your greatest expectations, you'll never succeed beyond the purpose to which you're willing to surrender. And furthermore, your surrender will not be complete until you form the habit of doing the things that failures don't like to do. Mic drop, exit stage left. Guys, it happened again. That's probably the 327th time I've heard that and read that. And different things are jumping out at me today too. But rather than me continue to dominate the conversation here, let me just open that up. Guys, what are some things that for you spoke to you? Any aha moments, any blinding flashes of the obvious? Anything you can take with you to help you, not only today, but tomorrow, next week, next month?
To find a purpose. To find a purpose for what you're doing.
Find a purpose. Absolutely.
One thing that's interesting is that, successful people form the habit of doing the things unsuccessful people don't like to do. And nobody likes to do a lot of the things, but just forming the habit of doing it is really what sets us apart. And it's kind of just a good thing for all of us to remember that sometimes if you just do it, then the rest will take care of itself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think something, sorry to interrupt you, man, something you can do as well is sometimes you outgrow your purpose and you got to be able to reevaluate and reestablish a purpose. You don't need to just stick with one. It could, you reach a base level with it and then reevaluate.
Absolutely. Guys, purposes change throughout life. So one of the biggest mistakes people make when they hear this is they get crippled because they think that they've got to figure out this awe-inspiring purpose of, feeding the world or just doing something that's so huge. Guys, for some of us, if you came into this business in a tough financial situation, behind on your bills, credit card debt, man, your first purpose might be to take care of all your bills on time and break that recurring habit of being behind. And then once you do catch up and you get comfortable with that, it might be, okay, let's tackle this $15,000 of credit card debt. Let's knock out $1,000 a month. Oh, and then we get comfortable with that. Let's knock out $2,000 a month. And then next thing you know, 10 months later, it's gone. Now we can focus on owning a home instead of renting or whatever the case is for you, but it changes over time, guys. Anybody else? Come on, leaders, flex your muscles. We got. I know some of you guys have heard some things that you heard before that are meaningful for you.
I think this is perfect, Van, especially this time of year, January 2nd, to do all the things that you really don't want to do so you can be successful, especially after a ton of time off. Like the last couple of weeks, several of us have had, have some earned flexibility with Christmas and New Year's. It's January 2nd. And to understand that when you wake up this morning, you may not have had that pep in your step because of all the extra time off, all the sugars you had during the Christmas holidays, all the extra food, time off. So we got to really get down to the nitty gritty and do all the little small fundamental things that it takes to be very successful here and attack the day or it'll attack you. And just because, what you do on a daily basis now, you may not be thinking, oh, this is my calling. I can see myself doing this for the next 40 years. No, your purpose here grows. Like my purpose here for 9 years, 9 years in is a lot different than it was my first year. I didn't think when I was a rookie agent, I was going to be an agency owner. That was not my calling. However, my purpose grew as my business grew, just like this, just by forming those habits and doing the things that other people don't want to do. Your purpose and vision will grow and grow and grow, and you'll grow. And you got to understand that if you want your business to grow here in 2023, it's not just because it's natural that it grows, it's because you grow.
Amen. Your business will grow when you grow. That's a good one to end on right there. Kyle, thanks for sharing that. You guys, we'll hop back over here to and wrap things up. But just guys, remembering the reason for why we do what we do is at the end of the day, yes, we get great bonuses, and yes, we get paid new commissions, and yes, we get paid lifetime vested renewals. And we get ownership in a Fortune 600 company that's growing every single year, and that we have direct influence on the growth of. But guys, at the end of the day, this is why we do what we do. Elena Salazar, who battled breast cancer and had our preferred level cancer policy, we paid her $16,779.75. She wrote here, I'm very appreciative of your company during this time of hardship, dealing with my cancer. I'm especially happy and most appreciative of my rep, Chad Onco, who has gone above and beyond the call of duty. Thanks to his time and help, it's made it possible for me to get these payment requests processed, because I would have no idea where to start. Because of Chad, I am most proud of your service. So guys, let's all just keep our hearts on service. Remember that you can't be nervous when your mind's on service, and know that there's an Elena Salazar right out there in the territory today, right inside a business that you're going to walk into probably in the next 2 to 3 hours. So let's make sure that we are the best versions of ourselves, that our axes are sharp, that our skills are sharp, that we've gotten back to the basics. And whether it's the 5,000th time we've done that demonstration, it's the one and only time Elena Salazar is going to hear it. And let's be sure that she gets the absolute best from us. So guys, thank you so much for being on today. New year, new you. We are united in 2023. Let's go forward and do our best, because it's never important to be the best, but it's always important to do your best. So let's do that today. Thanks for being on guys. Have a great day.
Heck yeah, great call, Van.
Thank you, sir.